Hello everybody, and welcome to another science class. So do you remember that last week we did some experiments with something that's the shape of an oval and can be brown or white? What was it? Do you remember the name? So we did experiments with an egg. And do you remember that the last experiment, we prepared it, but we didn't finish it because we had to wait for a week to see what happened. So, today's the day and we're going to see what happened to our egg. We will take a look at how the egg looks after a week. And then we'll rinse it out and see how it looks after we rinse it with water. And we'll explain some things that happened. Show you my egg and how it looks. This is my egg. You can barely see anything because it's full of dry bubbles. But look, there's no vinegar. The vinegar disappeared. Where is the vinegar? Actually, vinegar, like many other liquids, when time goes by, they form into gas and they disappear into the air. That's why it smells like vinegar a little bit after you put it in. So if you look at the bottom, it looks darker, right? It looks dark brown. That is actually part of the shell of the egg. So the acid in the vinegar was dissolving a part of the shell. Now, you can do this with me or you cannot do it because then your fingers will smell a bit smelly. But if you go after and wash your hands, it's totally okay. It's just an egg in vinegar. So, if you touch the outer part of the egg like I just did there, the shell disappears. So now I'm going to go and wash it with some water and let's see what happens. I'll be right back. Wow, you won't believe my results. So I just put it under running water and I shaked the glass so everything would get really, really clean. And almost all of the shell came out. You see that it's almost white? And the parts that are not white, if you rub them, they disappear. So the vinegar got rid of all of the shell in the egg. But something even more exciting is that the egg is squishy. It's like a ball. Let's take it out and see. If I can. Look, this is my egg. It's squishy. I'm sure if I dropped it, it would bounce. Do you want to try? 1, 2, 3. It didn't bounce. That's interesting. But it looks very, very soft and squishy. Just like a ball. Should we try and poke it? I'll go and take a toothpick so we can poke it and see what happens. Is the inside liquid? Is it solid? Is it bouncy like the outside? Let's see. Okay, I'm back and I have my toothpicks. I'm going to take one out, like this one, and I'm going to poke my egg. What do you think it will be? Liquid, solid, or squishy, like the outside? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, poke. Whoa! It's actually liquid. The egg white is intact. The egg white is still a normal egg white. But look at that. The yolk is solid. Look at that. It's like a little ball. And the outside of the egg created this material. Oh my God. Look, this is the outside. It was solid. Then the egg white is liquid. And the yolk yolk is solid. It's breaking apart a little bit, but it's also pretty much solid, a little bit bouncy as well, and it breaks apart if you touch it with the pick. This experiment was super interesting, and I would love to know what happened to your egg. Was your egg different than mine? Was it the same? What happened? Did you use the same vinegar? A different color vinegar? I want to know what happened. So now I'm going to go and throw this away, and let's continue with the science class. So, one question. What season are we in? Do you remember that we studied the seasons back in Rainbow? So the 4 seasons are winter, where it's really cold, spring, when the flowers start to bloom, the animals start to sing. Then we have the summer, where we go to the beach, we don't have school, we enjoy our families, for example, we can go on vacation. And then we have autumn or fall, which is when the leaves fall. That's why it has that name. So, what season are we in right now? Do you know? You have 3 seconds to guess. If not, I'll tell you later. 1, 2, 3. We are in spring. So, we are at that time of the year when all of the flowers start blooming. And that's especially and specifically what we are going to do today. We are going to learn about flowers and how they bloom. And do you know how flowers bloom and grow and become big and strong and become all those beautiful colors? Well, they can't do that themselves. They need somebody else. For plants to grow very big, they need a powder, a yellow powder called pollen. And flowers create their own pollen. But they need other flowers' pollen so they can grow beautiful. But they cannot do that themselves because they can't walk or fly or move. So they need somebody to carry that pollen for another flower and take the other flower's pollen and take it to their own. So they need insects, like bees, for example. So bees are animals or insects that help plants with pollination. Pollination is the process. And because this process's name is pollination, the animals or insects that help flowers with the process are called pollinators. Here I'm going to show you 3 different videos that you can watch. One is about pollen and pollination. The other one is about pollinators, so how other animals help with moving pollen around. And the other one is about bees, which are probably the most important pollinator. Now I'm going to show you a picture and I'm going to teach you the names of the most important parts of a flower. These are the parts that are especially important for the pollination process. So we have the stigma, which is where the plant receives other plants' pollen. Then we have the anther, which is what creates pollen for other plants. Then we have the pistil, which is the center of the flower and where we collect the pollen. And then we have the stamen. That stamen is like a little horn that gets the anther on top. Now, I'm going to show you a blank picture of the same flower, and you can tell me which are the two parts that it's pointing at. I want you to remember the names that we learned before. And if you don't remember, you can check them, go back, and then come back to the exercise. Now we know a lot of things about flowers, pollination, pollinators, so many things, right? Well, now it's time for today's craft, and I'm sure you will love it just as much as I did. The materials we will need for this very fun craft are a paper, a plate full of water, and make sure that the plate is tall enough, okay? We don't want a very straight across and not super tall plate. We'll need it to be a little bit tall, not too much, but a little bit. We will also need coloring utensils like pencils, rubbers, and it's so much better if you use markers for this craft specifically. Markers are very nice, you will see later. But if you don't have any, you can also do it with colored pencils. And the last thing we will need will be scissors. Remember to ask your family for permission and for help if you need it. Now let's go ahead and see the craft. Oh, and I didn't tell you what we were doing. I kept it a secret for myself. That's because I'm very excited to do it. So we are making a paper flower that when we put it in the water, it will open its petals. It's so beautiful. Now let's go and see how we make it. First of all, we're going to draw a circle in our paper. It doesn't have to be super big, because if it's super big, it won't fit into our plate. So make sure that it's more or less this big, not too big. Take your pencil and draw a medium-sized circle. It can even be smaller than this one. If you want to make a perfect circle, you can do it with something that's round, for example, a glass. I didn't have one at hand, so I just did it like this. Now, going from the middle of the circle, we're going to draw a few petals, more or less five, or six, more or less. It doesn't need to be exact. They need to go from here, and they need to be big enough because later we're going to fold them. And make sure that they go outside the circle. So, well outside, like this one. One petal. See how it goes way outside the circle? It needs to be super, 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 super big and go outside a lot, okay? Just like mine is doing. Let's see, let's do some more. Make sure that they are stuck together. If you need to do more petals, you can do them. It's not super necessary that you only do 6. See, I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I did way more. But there's no problem, that still works. Is the time to color your flower beautifully. So if we color it with markers, some of the ink from the marker will color the water when we put the flower in. So it will look so, so beautiful. But if you don't have them, you can also do it with colors, colored pencils. It won't go into the water, but it will still work for our experiment. So now's the time to color. Okay, now I'm finished coloring. Now it's time to take my scissors and cut all the way. Okay? Make sure that if you can't get into these small crevices here, you ask your family for help. For it to be more secure, you can leave the circle part without cutting it, or you can cut it if you put your petals very close together. This way we make sure that it doesn't break. Okay, now I have my flower. Now it's time to fold the petals. So I'm going to take my petal and I'm going to fold where the line of the circle is. So I'm going to fold in all of these petals, one on top of the other, in order, like I'm doing right now. Can you see? Make sure that you follow the line of the circle so that it's easier and they are all even until you have something like this. It kind of looks like a circle, right? Now that we have our shape, it's time for the experiment. Let's take our plate and it's time to put our flower in the water. Do you think it will bloom? Let's see. 1, 2, 3. Look, it's opening up. The petals are opening up. That's so exciting. One is already open. Let's see the rest. Do you think all of them will open or just a few? It's so much fun. It's like watching a real flower grow. 2. See that the water is turning brown there? I'm going to help the flower to open up. 3. Let's help these ones open up. Oh, I know what happened. So the ones that were a little bit up, they opened up. But the ones that were stuck, they just got stuck with the water down there. So they need a little bit of help. Look at that. The flower is leaving all of that color in the water. How cool! Now our water is turning green. Now that we've done our experiment, we will have to look at some conclusions. So my conclusion is that next time I do my flower, I will do less petals. So not 8, maybe 5, because that way they will open up more. And another problem that we faced is that the petals that were laying down on the flower, they just got wet and didn't open up. So we need to raise them a little bit so they can open fully, all of them. So if I did it one more time, I would do less petals and I would help them open up a little bit before so they didn't get completely wet. What were your results? How did you do? What color did the water turn? I'd love to know all of these things. So please, please, please send me some videos and pictures of your experiment and your craft. I'd love to see them, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye!